What up, though? Online etymology dictionary. Caucasian, 1807. Of or pertaining to the Caucasus Mountains. Applied to the white race, 1795, in Latin by German anthropologist Johann Friedrich Blumenbach, 1752-1840, who in his pioneering treatise on anthropology distinguished mankind into five races: Mongolian, Ethiopian, Malay, American, and Caucasian. In the last group, he included nearly all Europeans except Lapps and Finns, Armenians, Persians, and Hindus, as well as Arabs and Jews. His attempt at division was based on physical similarities in skulls. The word has long since been abandoned as a historical anthropological term. Compare Aryan. Caucasian, resident or native of the Caucasus, 1843, meaning one of the white race, is from 1830. Online etymology dictionary. Chinese, of or pertaining to China, 1570s, from China, as a noun from circa 1600. Chinese is a vulgar back formation from this word on the mistaken notion that Chinese is a plural. As an adjective, Chinean, Chinese also were used 16th century. Chinese fire drill, chaotic situation of many people rushing around futilely, is attested by 1962. U.S. military slang, perhaps with roots in World War II U.S. Marine Corps slang. The game Chinese checkers is attested from 1938. Online etymology dictionary. Russian, native or citizen of Russia, 1530s, from medieval Latin Russianus, from Russia. Slang or colloquial, or slang Ruski, Russian, by 1858, is from Russian Ruski. Russian roulette, attested from 1937. Russian dressing for salads is from 1915. The expression scratch a Russian, find a Tatar, frequent from 1842, and conventional wisdom on the topic might be from a French original. Online etymology dictionary. Kenya, or Kenyan, African nation named for Mount Kenya, which probably is a shortening of Kikuya. Kirinyaga, from Kiri, Nyaga, literally White Mountain. Though just south of the equator, it is snow-capped. Related Kenyan. Online etymology dictionary. Moor, to fasten a ship in a particular location by or as by cables, anchors, etc. Late 15th century, probably related to Old English merrows, mooring rope, via unrecorded Marian to moor, or possibly borrowed from Middle Low German morin or Middle Dutch maren to moor, from West Germanic Moor, North African Berber, one of the race dwelling in Barbary. Late 14th century, from Old French Moor, from medieval Latin Moris, from Latin Moris, inhabitant of Mauritania. Roman Northwest Africa, a region now corresponding to northern Algeria and Morocco. From Greek, moros, perhaps a native name, or else cognate with moros, black. But this adjective only appears in the late Greek and may as well be from the people's name as the reverse. Also applied to the Arabic conquerors of Spain. Also applied to the Arabic conquerors of Spain, being a dark people in relation to the Europeans. Their name in the Middle Ages was a synonym for Negro. Later, 16th century, 17th century, being the nearest Muslims to Western Europe, it was used indiscriminately of Muslims, Persians, Arabs, etc., but especially those in India, cognate with Dutch Moor, German Moor, Danish Morer, Spanish Moro, Italian Moro. Online etymology dictionary, German, of the same parents or grandparents, circa 1300, from Old French germain, own, fool, born of the same mother and father. Closely related, 12th century, from Latin germanus, fool, own, of brothers and sisters, one's own brother. Genuine, real, actual, true, related to German. Genitive germinus, sprout, bud, which is of uncertain origin. Perhaps it is a dissimilation of pi, gen, men, suffixed form of root gene, give birth, beget, with derivatives referring to procreation and familial and tribal groups. German, a native of Germany. German, of or pertaining to Germany or Germans. Online etymology dictionary, Irish, circa 1200, the Irish people, from Old English iris, inhabitant of Ireland. This is from Old Norse Idrar, which comes ultimately from Old Irish Iru. The reconstructed ancestry of this derives it from Old Celtic. From mid-15th century in reference to the Celtic language spoken in Ireland. Some Middle English forms of the word suggest influence of or pooning on Old French irias, erois, wrathful, bad-tempered, literally irios, and irias, Irish, meaning temper, passion, is 1834. American English first attested in writings of Davy Crockett from the legendary pugnacity of the Irish. Irish American is from 1816 as an adjective from 1820. Wild Irish, late 14th century, originally were those not under English rule. Black Irish, in reference to those of Mediterranean appearance, is from 1888. Black Irish, in reference to those of Mediterranean appearance. Irish, circa 1200. Irisk, of Irish nationality. From 1580s as Irish in nature or character. Online etymology dictionary, Arab, one of the native people of Arabia and surrounding regions. From Old French, a rabbi. From Latin, Arabs, accusative Arabin. From Greek, Arabs, Genitive, Arabus. From Arabic, Arab, indigenous name of the people, perhaps literally inhabitant of the desert, and related to Hebrew, Araba, desert. Online etymology dictionary, Thai, 1808, native name, Thai, literally free. Siam, name of Thailand before 1939 and from 1945 to 48, from Thai Siam, people relative to whomever gave the name. Online etymology dictionary, Israeli, citizen of the state of Israel, citizen of the state of Israel. 1948, from Israel, Hebrew national designation suffix. Also used in English as the adjective. 1948, it distinguishes the citizens of the modern state from the ancient people who had been known in English since the 14th century as Israelites. Online etymology dictionary, Asian, late 14th century, inhabitant of Asia Minor, from Latin Asianus, belonging to the province of Asia, an inhabitant of Asia. Online etymology dictionary, African, Old English Africanus, plural, native or inhabitant of Africa, from Latin Africanus, of Africa, African, from Africa, used of white residents of Africa from 1815, used of black residents of the U.S. from 18th century. When it especially meant one brought from Africa, and sometimes was contrasted to native-born Negro. As an adjective by 1560 pertaining to Africa or Afrikaans or Africans. Old English had Africanisk from 1722 as of or pertaining to Black Americans. African American. There are isolated instances from the late 18th and early 19th century, but the modern use is a reinvention first attested 1969 in reference to the African American Teachers Association, which became the preferred term in some circles for U.S. Black by the late 1980s. Mencken, 1921, reports Afro-American is now very commonly used in the Negro press. Afro-American is attested in 1853 in Freeman's publications in Canada. Africo-American, 1817 as a noun, 1826 as an adjective, was common in abolitionist and colonization society writings. Online etymology dictionary, Australian, 1690s, originally in reference to the Aboriginal inhabitants from Australia. Indian, inhabitant of India or South Asia pertaining to India. Red Indian, to distinguish the Americans from inhabitants of India, is first attested 1831 in British English, but was not commonly used in North America. Hugh Rawson, Wicked Words, writes that Indian is unusual among ethnic terms for not having much pejorative value until comparatively recently. Online etymology dictionary. Hindu, 1660s, from Persian Hindu, adjective and noun. Indian, from Hind, India, from Sanskrit, Sindhu River, meaning here the Indus, hence region of the Indus. The sense that gradually was extended by invading peoples to encompass all northern India. Properly, one of the native race in India descended from the Aryan conquerors. More loosely, the name includes also the non-Aryan inhabitants of India. As an adjective from 1690s, the Hindu Kush mountain range is said to mean literally Indian killer, and was said to have been the name given by the Persians to a pass where their Indian slaves had perished in winter, but this likely is folk etymology. Hindu, former spelling of Hindu. Online etymology dictionary. Iranian, 1788, of or pertaining to ancient Persia. Online etymology dictionary. Syria, related Syrian, Old English Syri, meaning the Roman and Byzantine province, including Palestine. Also used loosely for the land between Egypt and Asia Minor. From Latin Syria, from Greek Syria, from Syrioi, the Syrians, a name given originally to the Assyrians, a shortened form of Assyrioi, Assyrians. Afghan, native or inhabitant of Afghanistan. Portuguese, 1610s, the language of Portugal. Also 1620s, a resident of Portugal. Spaniard, 1400, from Old French. Espagnard, from España, Spain. From Latin, Hispania. From Greek, Hispania, Spain, Hispanos. Spanish, a Spaniard, which are probably from Celt-Iberian, in which language is said to represent a definite article. Hispanic, pertaining to Spain, especially ancient Spain. 1580s, from Latin Hispanicus, from Hispania, Iberian Peninsula, from Hispanus, Spaniard. Specific application to Spanish-speaking parts of the world is from 1889. American English, since circa 1972, especially applied to Spanish-speaking persons of Latin American descent living in the U.S. As a noun meaning Hispanic person from 1972. Spanish, circa 1200. Spanish, of or pertaining to Spain or Spaniards. English, the people of England, the speech of England. English, Old English, belonging to the English people. French, circa 1200. French, French, pertaining to France or the French. French, perform. 1970, from French, reflecting Anglo-Saxon equation. Online Etymology Dictionary, Filipino, 1898. Fem, Filipina. Spanish, from Las Islas Filipinas, the Philippine Islands. Online Etymology Dictionary, Mongolian, 1738, pertaining to Mongols. 1839, the language of the Mongols. Siberia, related Siberian, region in northwestern Asia, the name said to come from Siber. Sibir, ancient Tatar fortress at the confluence of the Tobol and Irtysh rivers. As a typical place of miserable banishment, it is attested from 1841. Online Etymology Dictionary, Egyptian, late 14th century, Egyptian, adjective and nouns. Old English had Egyptist, meaning the language of Egypt, is from 1550s. Online Etymology Dictionary, Kiwi, type of flightless bird of New Zealand, 1835, from Moro Kiwi, said to be of imitative origin as slang for a New Zealander, originally especially a soldier. It is attested from 1918. The kiwi fruit was so called in U.S. from 1966 when it was imported there, but it is known in New Zealand as Chinese gooseberry. Kiwi, a New Zealander. Online Etymology Dictionary, Ethiopian, inhabitant of Ethiopia. Online Etymology Dictionary, pole, stake, staff, late Old English, pole, stake, pole, post, a general Germanic borrowing. Pole, inhabitant or native of Poland. 1650s, from German Pole, singular of Poland. Japanese, 1580s, meaning the Japanese language, is from 1828. The Boston Globe, indigenous identity theft must stop. One of Canada's most lauded, influential, and seemingly steadfast Indigenous law professors and First Nations political advisors, Mary Ellen Turple LaFond, was outed as a white woman. Shortly after, Elizabeth Hoover, a professor at University of California, Berkeley, revealed herself when she said, "Without any official documentation verifying the identity I was raised with, she will cease to identify as Indigenous." Claims to Indigenous descent have vaulted these women to positions of power and influence. Playing Indian is an American tradition. It rests on the idea that Indigenous people are not present. Turple LaFond has long described herself as a treaty Indian and or a Norway House Cree from a reserve community in central Manitoba. She reportedly skipped high school and survived an alcoholic and abusive home. Her meteoric rise took her from Norway House to Harvard University and a professorship at Dalhousie University in Canada by age 26. Turple LaFond burst onto the scene from Niagara Falls, Ontario, near the U.S. border. There were once Turples at Norway House 2 generations ago. Joe Keeper, an elder who was born and raised on the reserve, remembers that her father was the son of a medical doctor who served the community for 11 years. Keeper remembered him as a little white boy, according to a Canadian Broadcasting Company interview. Dr. Turple Sr. was part of a family of elites who worked in Cree territory during a time of peak colonialism. How her own father's 11 years in Norway House as the son of a white physician morphed into an identity of Cree by a descendant years later joins a succession of literary figures, filmmakers, scholars, and artists, all of whom amassed sizable amounts of funding, space, and time before it was discovered they had fabricated their identities. This is from Fascia, History of Identity Fraud and Identity Theft Measure, September 2023. There was a time when identity theft was primarily a physical crime. If a cunning fraudster could acquire a combination of your name, address, or SSN, the process of impersonating you became alarmingly straightforward. The goal is to acquire a new identity rather than money-driven by desperation or the need for a fresh start. These criminals would erase their past and adopt the persona of their victims. In a time when formal identification methods were scarce and a person's identity depended largely on their word and signature, such drastic measures were possible. Identity fraud has a long history dating back to ancient times when people would assume false identities to evade authorities or gain illicit advantages in trade. National Park Service. The Racial Integrity Act 1924, an attack on indigenous identity. One of the act's main proponents was a physician named Walter Ashby Plecker, the head of Virginia's Bureau of Vital Statistics from 1912 to 1946. Plecker was responsible for ensuring that all infants born in Virginia received birth certificates that included their racial designation. Passed in 1924, the act outlawed interracial marriage and added strict definitions to racial classifications. The term white person shall apply only to such person as has no trace whatever of any blood other than Caucasian. Any who fell outside of this definition were to be identified as colored. The law allowed racial identity to be determined by things such as physical features and even family names. Online Etymology Dictionary, American, 1570s, originally one of the Aboriginal peoples discovered in the Western Hemisphere by Europeans, from modern Latin Americanus, from America. The original sense is now Native Americans. The sense of resident of North America of European descent is from 1765. American, 1590s, pertaining to the Western Hemisphere and its Aboriginal inhabitants. Engine, 1812 from 1683, as engine, a spelling representing the early American English colloquial pronunciation of Indian. Honest engine, as an asseveration of truthfulness, is first recorded 1868. Webster's Dictionary, the 1828 American Dictionary of the English Language. Noah Webster, American. American, pertaining to America. American, a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Portraits of Native Americans by Johann Moritz Rugandas and Jean Baptiste Debray. Portraits of Native Americans. Portraits of Native Americans. Do the right thing.